On that day, the day of trouble, Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001. It could have been like any other day, but we know it's not. You remember where you were on that day. Most of America had begun another work day or another school day, innocent and unaware. Our thoughts were not centered on security or terrorism, but we would soon learn what America was made of. On that day, it happened to all of us, all at once, out of the clear blue sky.
Any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
In our cars,
It looks like it has hit
our
Tower
homes,
2, the Twin
our
Towers.
classrooms, our offices.
I hate to say the words, but what comes to mind right now, terrorist attack.
On
is
that
what it
day,
looks like.
19 al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 commercial planes and began a series of coordinated suicide strikes on the United States. On that day, there were almost 3,000 fatalities. Citizens, firefighters, police, port authorities, passengers, business people, men, women, and children. Precious human lives. On that day, both towers of the World Trade Center collapsed, our symbols of a strong, free economy. On that day, the Pentagon was struck, our symbol of our military might. On that day, al-Qaeda didn't expect much of a fight, but on Flight 93, they got their first one. On that day, Jihad came face to face with, let's roll. But there was another day. There was the day after and all the days since. On that day, we held hands, we held prayers, we held out hope for the living. On that day where the towers fell, our resolve stood its ground.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
We will never again be the same after the attack against our nation on Tuesday, September 11. So how are we going to react?
On that day, we took action as the people of God found their greatest strength and bowed their heads in prayer. On that day, we devoted ourselves to service and to seeking out His will for our nation. On that day, we waved the flags, we met our heroes, we began to rebuild and repair our America. On that day, we turned our fighting men and women loose on the enemies of freedom across the globe.
He said that I'm Saddam Hussein, and then the response from U.S. soldiers was President Bush sent his regards.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, leader of al-Qaeda.
On that day, we vowed to never forget, but we have compromised, even with the small victories along the way. Any faith that we had placed in our economy and our government has begun to erode. Our memories of what happened on that day are fading. But there will come another day, a day that we can be ready for. No one knows when that day will arrive, but we do know that on that day, the clouds will roll back and the skies will part and the Lord will return. On that day, there will be one Lord and His name, the only name, Jesus. On that day, judgment will be delivered. Grace will be fulfilled, every tear will be wiped away, and the righteous will be caught up with Him. On that day, sin will be fully defeated by God's holy justice. On that day, all of creation will cry out, and every knee will bow, because Jesus Christ is Lord.